ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Midnight Shift Podcast. This is episode 2. I'm Justin.
I'm Jimmy.
And we're back in here in the studio again. Episode 1, Jim. How do you think it went?
Well, we kind of talked about different things, kind of wandered, but then again, it was our first show, so we wanted to talk about what we know and our knowledge and stuff, but it was good. I love Halloween and the franchise, so it was fun to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a week later, so you still love Halloween?
I still love Halloween a week later. It wasn't just like a one-time thing.
Okay, just making sure. So today, you've had some homework, and I had some homework, and we had to learn about some Bigfoot stuff. Sasquatch, Jim. So what do you think of Sasquatch? Before we start talking about what we found out, what is your initial reaction to Bigfoot?
Well, honestly, I've watched a lot of videos. There's always this, hey, you ever seen this video? There's Bigfoot in it. So then you watch it, and then you get to the end, and then you're always just like, that's not Bigfoot. Like, that was a waste of time. Or sometimes, like, it's comical. I always think of one of my buddy's dads, like, he, like, came downstairs, and he was just like, hey, guys, you gotta get up here. I found this video of Bigfoot. And we were like, I don't know, like 10, 12. So, like, we run upstairs. Oh, my God, here's the video of Bigfoot. And then he, like, shows it, and it's, like, Bigfoot. And it's, like, exactly what you think of Bigfoot. And then, like, a T-Rex runs by. And he's like, you see Bigfoot? But, yeah, Bigfoot. I don't know. It's just always been that myth. You know, you go in the woods, and you're out. I don't even know exactly when I was a kid, where I would think he was. Just, you know, if you're in the woods, he'd just be walking by, you know, he'd give you a look. Maybe he'd steal your beef jerky.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I don't think there's a Bigfoot either. Like, I really like to imagine that there was as a kid, but, like, so, I guess as a kid, I always imagined they were, like, I don't know. To me, it was always, like, you know, Colorado, you know, redwood kind of forest kind of monster. But, like, it turns out, based on what I learned this week, that, like, every state has some claim that Bigfoot is in their state.
Well, then it turns into not even like Bigfoot, though. That's what I kind of, when I was doing a little research into it, is like it all depends on the area. So, like, here we talk about like Bigfoot, and then if you're in Canada, they talk about more of like Sasquatch sightings and
Samsquanch.
And I was gonna get to that. Trailer Boys calls it the Samsquanch, you know, and that's the way. So it all kind of depends on the area, but every area has their own Bigfoot sightings. They've seen it because I have my opinion why everyone's seen a Bigfoot, but everyone out there's seen a Bigfoot. I think my grandpa back in the day used to date a female Bigfoot. She had a 13-inch foot, and she's like 5'7". You know, it wasn't a small Bigfoot, but it was definitely a Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. So that's basically, I mean, so that is the one
bigger foot than me.
That is the one thing to me that is compelling. The fact that, like, there are so many. I find it strange that they explain the same creature in a different way in so many places. Like, I learned about so we obviously have Bigfoot here in North America, but then, like, the story of Bigfoot is not that far off of, like, the story of, like, the Yeti in like the Himalayas and stuff. And then there's another one, I can't remember what he's called. He's got like I think it's called the Yowie, and that's in Australia, and it's generally like the same story, some big ape man that lives out in the bush, and, you know, it's the same character, and there's more. It's not the only ones, and it's just interesting to me that, you know, they tell the same story everywhere.
Yeah, but then I also think that, you know, it's like late at night and you see a figure, it's always going to be bigger than you think the figure is.
Right.
Makes it a little scarier, and it almost makes it a little, you know, like you think they're hairier or whatever.
Right. Yeah, like, so the first thing I watched was called, I think it was called, like, Searching for Sasquatch or something.
I've seen
something like that. And the first one I watched was called The Search. And that one was fucking boring, and I fell asleep. Then I watched the same series, so it was called Searching for Sasquatch, and I think it was called the Discovery. And it starts out with this guy, and he's at like a creek, and he's like explaining the story. He's like, yeah, it was crazy. Like we were driving by, and we looked up in the mountains, and we saw. He explained it as like a mother Bigfoot and a baby Bigfoot, and like the baby was playing, and he's like, and I got pictures of it too. And I'm like, oh no shit, this dude's got pictures of Bigfoot and a baby Bigfoot too. And he like shows it, and it's like that. He's like, this is a Bigfoot, and it's like that looks like the outline of any tree. That looks like some shadow that you just picked that you said that's Bigfoot.
Yep, that's what I've kind of always, big tree outside shaking in the wind, and it's like, oh my god, that's Bigfoot.
Right. Well, then like, so I'm watching these shows, and like everything I watch, they show these like woods and stuff. So that show took place in Washington.
That's where I kind of feel like you get more tales, and where I always thought Bigfoot came from is like more of the Washington area, just because I thought it'd be colder. That's why it's covered in hair, staying warm, stuff like that.
Right. So like they're showing me like the forests where like this dude's supposed to like be. And, like, a big part of my problem is, like, every tree there is covered in this, like, specific moss. It looks like every tree is just hairy and just covered in long, draping hair. Not unlike the photos of a Bigfoot.
Yep.
And so that was, like, red flag number one. And then, like, to me, like, you had some concrete evidence of a Bigfoot, you wouldn't spend...
But then, how do you have concrete evidence? Because then it's like, I found this extremely big footprint out in the woods. That's not concrete
evidence to me. I mean, if you found a dead Bigfoot...
Okay, then we're talking different. I'm just saying, though, you find a big footprint, it's someone just lost their shoes and was running barefoot through here. Yeah, big feet. Big feet.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm watching, and I'm like, this show is called Searching for Sasquatch, and it's, like, the subtitle is The Discovery. So I'm expecting like this is like part 2, like they found something, compelling to show me, and like instead like this show's like an hour and 48 minutes long, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, it's been 30 minutes, and all they've done is like introduce me to people. They don't have much here. Like, you would present your smoking gun right away, not spend so much time talking about like how this random dick grew up. Like, I don't care about that. I'm here for Mr. Foot, and I need to see that.
I like how you respect him, though. Mr. Foot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess it's Mr., Mrs., and or Child Foot.
Depending on, especially if you go with the other picture you talked about.
It's a whole Foot Clan. The Foot Clan. It's like fucking Ninja Turtles, dude. The Foot Clan. So,
so stupid.
So anyway, why don't you take us into what your research was or what you saw?
Honestly, it just is, like I said, it's just a bunch of stories. And then if you try to look into any videos or try to watch anything, it's always the same thing to me. They always talk about, like, there's this photo. But then, like, as you said, then it goes into the background of the people. Then it goes into, like, the family. Then it goes into the trip. And then, like, right as the video's about to end, it shows you, like, the worst photo you've ever seen. And it's like, that's just a bush.
Right.
It's not even like, how could you think that's like, and then it like ends, and it's just like, so what do you think?
Uh-huh.
And that's what it is every time.
I wasted 2 hours of my time.
And the most, I don't remember what it was, but there was one thing I watched. It was some video. I watched a lot of stuff on YouTube. That was my just looking up some Bigfoot, looked up like meanings and stuff. And there was one video, and it was the guy talking about how Bigfoot had killed someone.
Yeah.
And how they were some illegal pot farmers are like in the hills growing weed, and like how this creature came and like went after him. And then it's like, all I can think though is, then again, you're illegal pot farmers, and anyone that could be approaching, once again, if you get in that figure, they're wearing something, they would look hairy, they would look like a Bigfoot.
Right. So what I saw, I went deep. I watched a lot of stuff, and like, so here was my problem. I kept watching these videos and stuff, and I'm watching it, and then I'm finding myself just like dismissing everything they're trying to say. So I kept like trying to say like, nope, try to think it's real, I'm trying to convince myself that Bigfoot's real. Like, I'm trying to get into the feet of these people that are like, because like they were out there, they were just funny, man. They're just, watching these people is just funny. Like they say, instead of saying like I brought a gun. They're like, I holstered my weapon. And it's like, no, dude, that's a pistol or that's a gun. Like, you got to call it like my weapon. And they're like dressed in camo and they're like out in the woods with their like fucking tents and shit and with like night vision. It was crazy. And like, hi. So it's like, when I was watching these, so are you aware of what I think is the most famous piece of Bigfoot like evidence?
Where do you go into, and I'll say if I've
So
seen
it's called the Patterson Film.
That sounds familiar.
So it is a video that was supposedly shot like in the 60s or something. I think it was like the 60s. And this is like what everyone kind of points to is their like smoking gun of Bigfoot evidence, where it's, you've probably watched it, where there's actual video of of Bigfoot in, and there's like some brush, and he's like walking, and he like turns and like looks at the camera, and then walks off.
That's like called, the epitome of like, that's how I've always thought of Bigfoot, is from that footage. Like, yes.
And that's called the Patterson Film. So pretty much what I found out about this, essentially what I found out about the Patterson Film was actually, like, it's interesting how I found it out. So I was watching Making Monsters, which is like, it's a show, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a show that was on Travel Channel about a company that makes Halloween costumes and masks and, you know, haunted house props and stuff like that. And they have an episode where they're sculpting and making a Bigfoot mask and costume for this dude whose name is Phil Morris. He's the guy that, I don't know if he opened it, but he ran for a long time Morris Costumes.
Okay, that's what I was thinking when you said that name.
Exactly. So like, they're like one of them and like Rubies and stuff. They've done like the Halloween costumes, and
what you see when you go to Party Central and your Spirit Halloween, stuff like that. They normally buy from these companies.
Right. So, what it was, he came out and he does like a tour of like presentations explaining that like that footage of Bigfoot is a hoax, and he knows it because it was his costume, and he brings along the guy that supposedly wore the costume in that film. So, and they like talk the whole time about how it's fake, how it was always fake, and basically like he's old now and he wants to just like let everyone know that it was a hoax. But like, it is so far past that film. But just the fact that...
But now it's like everyone else has their own... That's like the start, and then I feel like everyone else has their own copy.
Right, exactly. And it's like...
Heck, even the movie... like the way that he walks by, it makes me think of the movie Signs too, even though it's about aliens. Even the way like the alien walks by and then turns at the camera and then like it creeps you out. You know?
I think that movie was trying to pay homage to
that film.
Yeah,
because you talk about, like I said, that's the way, you know, and it's almost frightening too, is because it's not even like the way that the footage looks. It's like it's just minding its business and then it just notices you and then keeps going.
Right. Well, like, that's...
Like a nomad, though, like a wanderer.
Yeah, and that's another thing that made it, like, interesting is, like, he has the costume. He has the original mask and costume that was used in that film. So it was like, okay, so that's a hoax. Like, your smoking gun of Bigfoot is a hoax. That's where, like, all these things, all these, like, theories and, like, the stories, if you look at, like, the timeline of Bigfoot, that's where it starts, is with that Patterson film. Now, one of the shows I watched tried to take it back even farther. I don't know why they equate this to Bigfoot, but they said so. It took place in, like I said, Washington and Oregon, and what they explained was like they have all these accounts of these miners who came to Oregon on the Oregon Trail in the gold rush. That would be not mining, but like panning, where they use like a pan in like a
shifting
stream.
to get like a gold ore or whatever.
Yeah, and they like scoop out like flakes of gold and like chunks of gold that were just in the water. And there was a whole bunch of people that were found that were like bludgeoned to death with like rocks. And to me, I was like, well, if I'm a miner and I'm, it's the Wild West. So I'm looking and like, okay, that dude, he's finding all kinds of gold. There's a big rock right on the beach. I could smash this dude's head in. No one's going to know. And I can just take all his gold and look how rich I am. And it's like, and if I get away with it, I'll do it 10 more times. Like, there's no police out there. There's no towns. So, of course, you just go around, kill people, take your money. I mean, it's the Old West. It's not really known for being a nice place.
Yeah.
And I mean, it wasn't even the Old West. It was.
But
the
also,
New West
you hear
at
that a
point.
monster's wandering around there. You may not want to go there yourself. So then
That's
it leaves
true.
you to get you can get your own wealth. If you think a monster's gonna roam and potentially kill you, you don't want to be in that area.
Well, that's the thing. The miners weren't claiming that there was a monster. This is like new people that, for some reason, they found the story and they were equating it to Bigfoot, claiming that like that there was a Bigfoot, or that the same one, I guess, was going around in the whatever year it was, 1800s, clubbing people to death with giant boulders. And, I find it weird that he also took all their gold. But, maybe Bigfoot needs some bling.
Bigfoot's got to eat.
Yeah, Bigfoot's got to eat, man.
How else is he gonna buy all that beef jerky?
It's endorsements. He was sponsored.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's the most compelling evidence. I mean, it's the clearest picture of Bigfoot I've seen. Is in the, Jack Link's fucking Sasquatch jerky thing.
Yeah.
So.
But then it gets to I don't know, and then you look into with Mexican culture and the Chupacabra.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like each area has their own, like you said, they each have their own monster. And here we love seeing a Bigfoot. And I think it just comes, I also think it comes down to everyone wants to be famous. Everyone wants to be, it's not just that everyone wants to find Bigfoot. They want to be the one to find Bigfoot. So when they find something that satisfies, I've seen him,
mm-hmm.
We just see the tree moving.
Right.
We just see the hairy bush. They see Bigfoot. The Patterson files, I had to look at that image again just now, just to
mm-hmm.
refresh the memory again. 100%. That's the only that's what but that's how I've always thought of Bigfoot.
Right.
That set the tone.
Exactly.
There was no other, if you looked any different. And then there was, I have to say it, even though I think he was a Sasquatch in the movie. I remember also watching a movie when I was a kid. It was called Harry and the Hendersons. You watched that as well?
I've never seen it, but it is also a movie that's talked about a lot when people talk about Bigfoot. Obviously not as look, there he is, but
it's a great movie though. It's he wanders in and he doesn't talk. I've seen it. It's been a long time, but I watched it with my grandmother. My grandmother made me watch because she thought it was literally probably maybe 10 years ago or so, or 15 years ago, whenever Netflix still had the DVDs.
Right.
And you could send them. That was a DVD that we got one day that she wanted to watch.
If I remember, I think everything I hear about that is that it's always paired with it's Harry and the Hendersons and another movie that's called Mac and Me, and they're basically both paired as rip-offs of E.T.
Yeah.
E.T. was really popular because it's some strange creature that comes into this family's house and becomes a cared-for member. And then it takes over the whole box office, and then everyone tries to rip it off. Mac and Me is more egregious because the same an alien that comes and meets some kid, and then same story. But Harry and the Hendersons was at least about a Bigfoot.
And I liked, and also it was he came into the house and the girl kind of dressed it up. And now that I've never thought of that, there is similarities between E.T. But it was just, I don't know, it wasn't a bad movie. I'm not saying it's but it's a good movie for its time. Good, wholesome family film.
I've never watched it. I have no idea,
It's it's been a long time, but it was a kids discovered the Bigfoot, and they try to hide him at first, and then he does a bunch of funny things of what he's eating, and they try to
is he just in the woods, or is he in ice?
In the woods. In the woods, and they find them, and they live close to a woods, and take them back home. and it's like he likes the food they eat, and they give him food all the time, and he's
I
always
think
like snacking.
Harry and the Hendersons was also. I think I've also heard about that when I watch stuff on Stan Winston and like the makeup effects and stuff.
Okay, yeah. Well, then, as we keep talking about it, then, well, I mean, it really, Star Wars fans would get very mad at me for calling him a Bigfoot, but I mean, at the end of the day, Chewbacca?
Chewbacca is kind of a Bigfoot.
A big walking Bigfoot. I mean, hairy, a little more hairy, and teeth or whatever they make him, and then like with the sounds that he makes, but it normally has big feet. He very hairy. It could be almost like I want the Bigfoot costume. I want a little hairier.
I like where we're going is we're forming our Foot Clan. So far we've got the Patterson Bigfoot, Chewbacca, I guess Harry from Harry and the Hendersons.
He definitely needs his own title, But then I almost like when I'm thinking of Harry and the Hendersons, though, he almost looks like Chewbacca to me. Like even the memory of him. I'll have to pull up a photo for us.
I mean, what other character is like a Wookiee? A big 9-foot tall hairy thing. The only thing that Chewbacca has that Bigfoot doesn't is a fucking exploding crossbow.
That's the only thing. Well, the crossbow and then like the arms, and also Wookiees are supposed to be intelligent. Like they can.
You think Bigfoot has no arms?
No.
You said, the crossbow and the arms.
Well, I meant like arms and like explosives and like the grenades that he wears across his chest.
I was just
not like
concerned
arms.
That your
like,
idea of Bigfoot was just an armless, hairy beast through the woods.
I love Wookiees with no arms. There's something about it. Big hairless
Wookiees.
Just big, tall, tree-looking things.
So, to add to our Foot Clan here, I think that after watching these shows, all I kept thinking when they're talking about all this stuff, right? When they would explain, like, they would hear these noises, and according, if you take, I've seen these pictures. I know what Harry from Harry and the Hendersons.
I just had to pull him up just for reference. He's like a little hairless Chewbacca.
Who's the guy in? I think he's in The Mandalorian season 1. Have you watched it?
I have.
Okay.
I love Star Wars.
Remember, I'm not. I'm not really into it, but I've watched. I am.
That's what I'm saying, and I've seen even.
So who's
all
the
other
guy
shows.
that they go to? I think it's in Star Wars. I know it's in Star Wars,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's in The Mandalorian, and he's like this little dude, and he keeps saying stuff like, "I have spoken."
Yeah.
He looks like that, but 9 feet tall. At least that's how he looks in my memory. Weird mustache. For those listening at home, look at Harry from Harry and the Hendersons, and look at whatever that guy's name is from Mandalorian season 1, and tell me if there's a correlation in the way these guys look. I don't think that guy has facial hair, but he has some dog cheeks that make him he's got the same profile as Harry from Harry and the Hendersons. I think Harry looks like a hairier, taller version of that guy.
I didn't get that.
Which is kind of funny because if Stan Winston...
Okay, I'm giving it to you.
That looks like
giving it to you.
It looks like a shorter, less hairy
Harry
and the Hendersons.
Less hairy. Like if it was a naked mole rat version of him. I'll give you that then.
What is that guy's name?
Oh, like Quirrell or something like that. Don't make me try to.
You gotta tell everybody. I don't know his name. He's the I'm spoken guy.
That's literally what I have written. I literally wrote I have spoken in Mando. I do not remember. It was like Creel or something.
Yeah, he's in season 1.
Now you can look at it too.
Queel?
Kuiil. Queel.
Queel. What a cool name. They really just throw fucking letters up there, don't they?
That's Star Wars in a nutshell. That's why. But luckily, when it's in a show, that's one thing. I'm reading. Just to not get off too far off topic, but I'm reading this book called Aragon right now, or now I'm on the second book, and that's one thing I hate though is they have all these places and all these stuff, and you have to know how to say it. Good thing in a show though is you know how to say it because you can say however they pronounce it in the show. But when you're reading in a book, you can start to almost kind of have your own name for characters and stuff, and you got to kind of go to their at the end how they abbreviate it, how it's actually pronounced, and go from there.
That reminds me, and I can't be the only person that had this happen, but when Harry Potter came out, I know for a fact when we were reading those books, everyone thought her name was Hermione or something, not Hermione.
Wasn't
until
there
those movies came out. nobody knew how to say her name.
Yeah, it was, like I said, I was lucky where by the time the movies came out, that's when I more got into the books. So that's when I started reading, and by then you were kind of, Harry Potter, you're kind of good because you'd already heard a lot of stuff. But other stuff, sometimes that could be hard, if there's never been a movie, is knowing how to pronounce what they're trying to say.
Right. So anyway,
to get back on topic.
To come back. So the shows I watched, they all talk about like, so they would show like noises that a Bigfoot makes, because they would just like go out in the woods and like record sounds, and then for whatever reason just equate that to Bigfoot. Like, to me, you're in a rainforest, which is like, it's a habitat. It is infested with animals of all kinds, like all kinds of birds, ground dwelling like rodents, and just all kinds of stuff. And like, they make noises, but for some reason, according to 1 hour-and-a-half long show I watched, a Bigfoot can make all kinds of noises from like whoop to fucking a beastly growl that was explained as the sound. It was a mix between a lion's roar and a T-Rex call.
That's a little too much for me. I'm sorry.
Right.
How's a 9-foot creature creating the same sounds that a T-Rex sound? But then again, like I said, discussions for another time. We all have the sound for a dinosaur. Like a T-Rex roars, we're thinking Jurassic Park's, their roar. But I've always, what if they didn't roar? What if they like clucked?
We really don't know.
That is something that is always like, we can get the way they walked. You can make a skeleton move and see how the bones stay together and get a feel for how they move, how they would sprint, and then kind of predict their speeds. Like almost everything else. But as for like what they sound, or if they actually, they always tried to say the one animals produce sound. How do you know you weren't there? And if they did, was it a sound like we're predicting, like, the sounds that animals make today, or was it something different?
Well, that kind of goes with what we're talking about, because, a lot of ancient creatures come about from that. So, like, a big one is, like, Cyclops. You've heard of that. I think the most traditional or most popular versions of those come from, like, the Greek Odyssey.
Yep. The one-eyed monster.
So the reason that they talk about that, and obviously we don't know, but one of the ideas is that they found elephant skulls. Now, if you look at an elephant skull or like a mammoth skull, it has a mouth, but then where it looks like the eyes should be is where its trunk is. So it's got this giant, like a gaping hole right here that looks like one monstrous eye. So if you just see that skull, you're like, what was this fucking creature with this giant one eye and tusks, or like, horns that hang out of its mouth? And then like you look at Cyclops and it kind of looks, like that. So a lot of, I think that's the idea of Bigfoot, is like, I think I've heard it explained as like the missing link between like man and ape.
Well, that's where I was going to get to. Another thing is it also reminds me of when you think of like a Neanderthal, when you think of our caveman and stuff. Like that's and also if you were outside in the woods, and you were living out there all the time, you would grow. Like especially if you were like a male and you had testosterone, you would grow more hair. You would get warmer. I'm gonna say for one thing, I would not shave or like cutting down my beard in the wintertime, because there's a big difference from going from having hair in your face to not having hair in your face.
Right.
It's like, man, I miss that hair on my face.
So like my one thing, so I was explaining, like I was watching the shows, and everything from like their noises to the stuff they do. They, for whatever reason, they kept saying that like they would find a Bigfoot or they would hear it and it would like slap a tree. I don't know that's why that is a thing that they claim a Bigfoot would do, but it keeps slapping trees. For whatever reason, it slaps these trees. And they talked about how like they would see a big tree get like just knocked over, so they knew it was like something huge. Or they would explain...
we could also get into like how animals, when they're trying to get their antlers off or fur off.
Right.
They like to rub against trees. They like to rub
Right.
against something hard. So same
That's
thing.
exactly where I'm
I mean,
trying
if
to
he's
go.
a big greasy bastard, you know, he's covered in grease. I mean, he's got to be sweaty from all this hair he's got, and he's got to
Right.
rub on a tree. And
Well, I'm curious about how much of these Bigfoot things are bears.
like skinnier bears, smaller bears that would almost pass as when they're standing or as
Right.
they're going by. Is like I see what you're saying.
Like, I immediately went and started watching videos. There are videos of bears ripping trees out of the ground. I saw it, and it looks like a man wrapping his arms around a tree and twisting it like that, fucking back and forth, ripping this tree out because it wanted to eat something that was like underneath it. And it rips this tree out, breaks the bark, all that stuff. And they absolutely, so in the spring after winter, they'll go and they'll stand upright and scratch on a tree to try to help clean off their coat as they're trying to like shed extra hair and stuff. And then they absolutely walk on their hind legs.
Yep.
And I mean, if you're walking in the woods,
And like you're saying too, after hibernation, they're not going to be as large. They're not going to like
Right.
have that like larger. They're going to be a little slimmer just because they haven't ate for these months. So like they would almost have potentially a more man like feature where you could think that could be a 9-foot man.
right, and like, so like, another problem I have is like, it's crazy to me that say he's real, say Bigfoot's real, and not just one, but say it's like a class of creatures and that they are out there. How have we not found one?
See, here's the secret. The FBI may come for all of us after this. It's actually an affliction, and if you get the Bigfoot disease, the DNR come and they say your child has to go live in the woods and wander around, and they're going to be called a Bigfoot. And they measure your feet, and it gets real awkward. And then it's kind of like the guys from Men in Black, you know, they have the device that makes you forget all about it, and you don't even realize, and like they erase the pictures of your daughter anymore, so you don't realize that you were raising a Bigfoot daughter.
They go deep.
And then next thing you know, every night you just see this creature walking by your house, and you don't know it was actually your daughter, but you had to be abandoned because the DNR said it's, you know, she's too much like Bigfoot.
That's crazy. That's a hell of a theory, Jimmy.
Thank you. Be careful telling it to people because they may either lock you up or.
So like, all right. So
They're gonna
I
come for
watch
you.
a show called Meat Eater. And like what this guy does, he takes people that don't usually hunt, and he takes them out on hunts. So they'll go and hunt, you know, an elk or whatever, and then he cooks it, and they like eat it, and he just explains, you know, all these things about how to hunt and stuff like that. And in his hunts, like he's hunting stuff that is far, far away. Like he's on like a mountain. And he's hunting a deer that is on another mountain. But, like, the sight line is so long. And to me, with a person like that, how has he not... And, like, his camera can clearly zoom in and see perfectly, like, a deer or a bear or whatever it is, you know, a mile away. And how have we not caught
Honestly,
a picture or a real video of...
The reason why we know it's not is because back in the day, like a big point I'd give is that no one had, as literally I was just handing my phone, it fell, and if you were wondering what that loud sound was, my phone fell. But that's just my exact point, the phone. No one had cameras. If you had to almost, you know, be out in the woods and you were doing a family vacation and then you had the camera up for your family. No one is out with, you know, now we literally live in a world today where it's if I need to take a picture, I reach in my pocket and pull out my phone. Almost every phone, cell phone, has a camera installed on it. And it can, you know, take some, obviously some are better, some are worse, but it can still take a photo. And in today's world, with everyone taking a photo at potentially any moment, someone could be taking a photo.
Right.
We should have seen a Bigfoot.
That's how I feel. And it's like, it's not even just
30 years ago, I would have still believed Bigfoot if I was growing up in that time, and I could see, like, why your dad would watch, but like, you know, and why it's still, but it's to me, it's like a national pastime. It's like just something that you believe in. I almost, like, it's not even like that they're actually like, and there is people that truly believe though, as we talked about, you know, there is Bigfoot hunters, but I feel like it's something, you know, when you see something out in the woods spooky, instead of trying to acknowledge the fact, like we said, it was a bear, it was a cougar, it was a anything that's walking by, where you try to say it was Bigfoot.
Well, that's what was freaking me out when I was like watching the shows is like these people are out there in the middle of the night in places that are hunting grounds for bears and for large cats and other predators, and like you brought a pistol, but your pistol is not going to do anything to a bear. Like, it's really not. You're not going to dent a bear. They are a different kind of animal. They're tough.
Yep.
And like, you're right by these things.
You
if
need a
I'm in the
high-powered
middle
rifle
of the
if you're
woods,
trying to take a bear down.
Right. If I'm
and
in
even
the
then,
middle
it's gotta
of
be
the
well
woods
placed.
and I hear something knocking down trees and growling and shit, I'm not going to go see what it is.
Well, you're not going to go see what it is, but also you're not going to think, you're going to think it's the scariest thing it could be.
Right.
And you know, do we go logically? Do we go, oh my gosh, I'm out in bear country. It's probably a bear knocking trees on. It's, oh my gosh. And especially if you're wanting to see a Bigfoot, if that's something you've always wanted to see and, you know, you're waiting to see, that's what you're going to see. That's what you're going to hear. And then from then on out, like you said, when they hear those sounds and it could be a bear walking by, they think Bigfoot's there.
Right. I just think there's no way that we have so many cameras.
It's in the 21st century.
Right.
Once we got to this point, the way the world is, there's no way.
Right.
People don't even go on, you know, people don't even go camping anymore without taking a phone. And they even sell chargers that you can be out in the woods and I have a charger at home and it keeps like a 48 hours of charge. You could potentially charge your phone multiple times off that charger alone.
Right. So I'll put it like this. Obviously, this is not like the world over. But if you take pick random, any 10 Americans, I'll bet you they all have a phone. And all those phones have a camera.
Mm-hmm.
I can bet you. And some of those cameras are so good that they're like, some people like vlog and record all kinds of content just on cameras.
My uncle recently went to, his camera on his phone is quite good. He went to Florida and he has pictures of the stars from his phone.
Right.
The stars. It's like, what?
Right. And that's like, and even on top of that, you've got hunters that have trail cams.
I literally think of my grandpa as we were talking about hunting. My grandpa's hunting a bear before my grandpa. I have always explained my grandpa as I've talked to Justin about. He's a grizzly guy.
Yeah.
He's been in all different types of scenarios. Been all through woods, walked all around, sat in, you know, a woods for 18 hours waiting for something to come by.
I think real quick we need to like clarify. You're a Spence and there's a whole bunch of you. So you've got multiple grandpas, you've got multiple uncles.
But see, this grandpa, he's on the Bono side. He's Italian, you know. He's this Italian, gun-toting, crazy-looking, you know. I've always had a love my grandfather, but I tell everyone in the world I would not go to my grandfather's house. He is a scary man, and he would shoot you on sight. Stay away.
It's a Bigfoot. I've been trying to find me one of these.
Get the train gun. We're gonna take this in.
I always wanted to fuck me a Bigfoot.
See, I haven't got that, you know. Mrs. Bigfoot, sorry, Mrs. Foot. I'm gonna have to say no.
So anyway, he hunts bears.
He has, like I said, he's just hunted different animals and stuff, and he's been across like the states and stuff and hunted and fished, and he has never seen, you know what I mean, never seen a creature. Right. And I know that there's people out there in the world that are just like him, that do the same thing, that have been everywhere, and we would have, like I said, unless, I don't know, maybe they became friends with Mr. Foot, and they didn't want the world to discover the greatness of Mr. Foot. You know, he can lift trees out, and he can get a tree stand out in a second, and they realize if I tell him, I don't know what there could be from hiding it.
Right.
If you've seen, I don't see. It's like I don't think there's any skill. I don't think there's anything that, you know. It's not like we've ever heard they're great hunters or they're great gatherers. We don't even really have ever heard what they eat, you know. And then it gets into, are they cannibals?
Well, that's my other thing too. Is like, okay, so one argument that they brought up in my research was that like we find new species of animals every day. And yeah, that's true, but they're small, and they're in the Amazon, or they're in, you know, remote locations way out where no one can live, and they're tiny. You're talking about like tiny pocket-sized birds and stuff, and small insects, not 9-foot tall apex predators that live in a place that's not that far away from other people.
And then, like, I just couldn't also imagine. Like a Bigfoot, like, yeah, big 9 foot, like, yeah, he's tall, But then you get a pack of wolves running by?
Right. Well, that's what I thought too.
I feel like there'd be no Mr. Foot.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. If you've got a grizzly bear that comes across... A grizzly bear is an apex predator. There's nothing that hunts a grizzly bear. So it is an apex predator. I think a cougar is an apex predator because there's nothing that hunts it.
Same way with like wolves and stuff too.
Right. So if it doesn't have something that hunts it, so a Bigfoot would have to be an apex predator. Here's why. If it wasn't, we would find him dead. But at the same time, what is it doing? Okay, humans have their like capabilities. We don't traverse the woods as well as a bear does. But apparently a Bigfoot can. And if a Bigfoot were to come across a bear, like the bear, say by chance, a Bigfoot comes across a bear and her cubs. That bear is going to attack that Bigfoot because that's just what they do. So you're either going to find a dead Bigfoot or a big dead bear. And then you're going to have to come up with, how the fuck did this bear die? There's no gunshots in it. What creature is out here bludgeoning to death a grizzly bear? Something is not adding up here. So, that to me too is like, what does it eat? What does it hunt? If it's an ape, it's got to be like an omnivore. So
well,
like,
then it's like it gets hard as like, because then you always think, like I said, we get to like a winter time. What does it eat though in the winter?
What does it do? I mean, I guess it doesn't matter if it's in Florida.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't see it walking around with all those snowbirds and going on Magic Kingdom and hanging out in Epcot.
Right.
And also, like I said, when I think of a Bigfoot, I think of, at the end of the day, I think of like Washington. I think of like thick forests of just like miles and endless miles of forest for them to wander.
Right. See, I think a lot of times when they're found in the South, I think a word that's used more often is a skunk ape. And they're found in like the swamps and shit. Which, I mean, I guess it could hide in there.
That's just a guy who's hiding out and forgot to wash himself for a week.
So, personally, I think all the Bigfoot stuff is like mostly bears. Or just...
Or it's people looking for fame, or it's people seeing something that they don't realize. Like, it's something else.
Right.
But I do think that too. And I think the ones that really push it and get clubs and stuff together, it's just they want to have some fame. They want to have some power. They want to lead someone. I wouldn't get a group of guys together, but hey, Justin, let's get the boys together. Let's get some beersy on. Let's go wander the woods.
So the other piece of evidence that is like the classic evidence of Bigfoot.
The footprint.
The like plaster cast. Yep. So, but again... Just like the Patterson film, how this guy came out and said it was all a hoax. I was part of it.
Didn't he say that he put his casted foot or something in there too?
So the guy that found that, so the story is he had like equipment.
It's the same guy that had the footage, right?
No, someone different.
Okay.
So this guy, and this is actually, I think this is where the story came from. The name.
Patterson?
No, the name Bigfoot.
Okay.
Because I think in the Patterson film, I think they called it Sasquatch.
Yes.
The name Bigfoot, I believe, comes from this incident. So there was a guy, I don't remember his name, but he, was on some kind of a job site and had all this like equipment, like some bulldozers and backhoes and stuff like that. And the next morning, he comes out to his equipment and he finds like a bunch of equipment like knocked over. And then around it are these giant footprints. So he takes a plaster cast of it and takes it in. And that's the plaster cast of a Bigfoot foot. And then he shows it to like the newspapers, and they're the ones that make up the name Bigfoot. Well, then he dies years and years later. And his two sons come out and say it was all a hoax. He told us it was all fake. He did it all. So the two pieces of concrete evidence that we've been presented with that are like the classic started all this have both come out as hoaxes. And that to me is kind of funny to everyone that claims they've got these like smoking guns of Bigfoot things. So in the show I watched, they also found what they call a Bigfoot nest. So they found these places of huckleberry, like the like plant.
Mm-hmm.
It grows on these like long vines, and it's like it's a huckleberry prairie. And then they find these like what looks like, you know, something laid in this. Well, then I was looking up online, and do you know what loves to eat huckleberry? Bears. Bears love huckleberry. They eat huckleberry. If they find a whole fucking, 12 acres of the shit, and they lay down in it, and they're eating the huckleberry, that would make what that looked like. And they're claiming that, like, it's all, like, entwined and stuff, and that looked like horse shit to me. That just looked like how they grow. So that it's interesting to me that a Bigfoot would build a nest on the ground. I guess
that's what, even when we were talking about like fighting a Bigfoot
kind of area.
When we talked earlier about like a Bigfoot and a bear fighting, I almost had the idea too of like them having massive arms so that they'd be able to like pull themselves into the trees and that they could hide in the trees.
Well, if you're
but then it's like weird just because like we always talk about we see them on the ground. Right. They always talk about how you see their footprints, so it's not like they're swinging through the trees like Spider-Man, Right. Bigfoot man, Mr. Man.
I mean, if you're 9 feet tall, you're not swinging through trees anyway.
I would.
I mean,
why not? Then you're like 16 foot tall.
Silverbacks and shit, they don't swing through trees.
Well, like we don't give them trees big enough to swing.
We give them trees.
Well, if we took them to the redwoods, if we watched the Planet of the Apes movies, great movies, and we take them out there, they weren't swinging, but they were trying. The redwoods had a better chance of holding them up.
Well, that's another chunk of evidence that they bring up for Bigfoot. They show these like branches that are snapped, like, 8 feet up in the air. But like, again, you watch the videos of bears scratching their backs and stuff, and they're holding on to tree branches and all kinds of stuff.
Well, even at that point, deer still too are going to be knocking those down because they're going to be trying to get their antlers down. And even if they have to run forward and knock them down, that's what they will try to do.
But I've seen bears climb trees.
True.
If there's something up there that they want to eat, like, I don't think it's just like a Pooh Bear thing that bears like to eat honey. I think they like really do. So if they want to climb up there and eat a beehive, like, they'll do it. I've seen bears climb trees. Not in person, but I've seen videos of bears climbing trees. So they're fucking big, so if they jump on a tree branch, they might fucking snap it.
Mm-hmm.
So that evidence sucks. Now, I want to present you with my what I think is my favorite answer to why we haven't found a Bigfoot yet. Or that why we can never catch one on tape or catch a video of one or a picture or whatever. Are you ready? So, they claim that Bigfoot is an interdimensional being that can move back and forth through space and time. So he can just step into another dimension when we're going to take a picture of him. And apparently he's camera shy. And, to avoid detection for whatever reason, he just decides to, teleport across the fabric of reality.
I thought it was more I was kind of hoping it was going to be more like a, vampire where it kind of can't see its own reflection. You just take a picture of Bigfoot and he's not even in the photo. He's like, yeah, bro, take a photo of us. And like you take a photo and then it's just like you standing with like your arms around nothing.
I also just like the idea that maybe Bigfoot is blurry. That's why all his pictures are blurry. Maybe he's just a blurry person.
What the thing is, every time they take a photo, he just got done getting a perm.
So yeah,
he's a little like frizzy, real thick, real wavy. Can't really even see his eyes. He can't even see his eyes.
Right.
Pretty much, he just stands still for a while.
I like the people that claim they find Bigfoot scat, or for you lay people, they find shit from a Bigfoot.
I'm just saying. I'll start taking shits in bags and wait till they're real big and go, hey, man, I got some Bigfoot shit over here.
Has a Bigfoot shit. But can you imagine, like, this dude walking through the woods, and he finds a pile of shit.
I'm going to quote our show that we watched. If me and him both love it, but it's called Trailer Park Boys. And Trailer Park Boys, when they're going after Sam, and they believe that there's a Sam Squanch going around their woods, and they go out, and they go, oh my God, that's a 9-inch, shit cobra. Holy hell, it's got a whole piece of bone in there.
So, like, I just imagine the people that scoop this stuff up and take it back.
Bear shit.
Yeah, and take it back to, like, a park ranger, carry this back and go, I think I found Bigfoot shit. And the park ranger has to just break their heart and go, no, that's bear shit.
No, and the park ranger goes, will you quit shitting a bag and bringing it to me?
For real.
Just because you have big, long shits. I mean, use some fiber, man. Break it up. If I was
a park ranger, I would certainly have up a sign that says, like, if you bring shit into my office, you have to take it back.
I'd make them eat it.
Because if I carried it all that way and it was just bear shit, I'm not taking it with me when I leave. Probably just run out the door, and hopefully I never see that man again. Hopefully we don't cross paths because I left a pile of shit that is apparently bear shit on his desk.
No, they come back with, like, their shit. It's liquidy this time.
That's horrid. There's nothing worse than park ranger shit.
They're like, there's some berries in it. They're like, they're whole berries and they've been smashed in there. But there's berries.
What, are you going to eat it? What are the berries for?
You said that they eat the berries. We just got over this.
What, the bears?
The Sasquatches, because they exist.
They do, of course. Of course they're real. They're our holy protectors.
But the it being like a creature like Jason and it can just move, I don't believe that. I have a better theory of it being more like a vampire and you can't get its reflection or shadow,
Well, there's also a slight correlation between Bigfoot and aliens. And there's a group of people.
Well, that's when we get into this discussion, I feel like the other part then is also then, as you just said, is getting into aliens and have aliens ever drop down? Is the government hiding stuff at Area 51?
Are they
Will we ever find
Bigfoot
out?
In Area 51?
That could be a great question. Actually, maybe Bigfoot does exist, but all the presidents just keep throwing them in Area 51, and they just got herds of Bigfoot in there, and that's what runs Area 51. They got them like turning turbines and like stuff like that, and they just got them spinning windmills, and they're producing power. And that's what powers Area 51. We don't know because I'm still disappointed with the Kyles in the world for not invading Area 51 a couple years ago.
I was really hoping that happened.
I was really hoping. Honestly, though, let's be completely honest. I really just wanted a video of a bunch of idiot kids getting mowed down by the government. Like, you're not allowed to see what's in here, and we're, like, authorized to kill you. And then they come in there, and they're just getting shot down. It's like, we'll still get in. Please stop. Like, just please stop.
I find it interesting how many people traveled out there and, like, sold merch for, like, breaking into Area 51. A lot of people, like, showed up to that thing.
Oh, but like I said, nothing came.
Well, of course nothing came. They're not going to go
very disappointed.
Because there's nothing there.
You should have came with the tank.
You would have to run before you hit anything.
That's like they talked about it. When they talked about it, there's like so many miles that they own before you get there. Then and then like that is patrolled but not patrolled heavily. So then if you're most likely going to get caught just going in the confound. Then once you get into like actually Area 51 is close, but that's when there's patrols. There is someone that's going to look, and you're not just going to get there. You're not going to run right in.
Well, they're like posts that are up. I mean, they're kind of scary. They say
well, no, because there's videos of people years before this was a thing and before it became like a thing of people getting just hiking, and they got too close, and that's what I'm telling you. They're in that forest range where they're not even in Area 51, but they're just close to it,
right?
And they'll automatically already take them away. Like you can't be here,
right? Well, because they have signs up that are posted everywhere, especially like on the roads, and they say like pretty much it says, I don't know what it says exactly, but it's to the extent of like if you are caught trespassing here, you will be shot on sight.
Yes.
There's not a warning shot.
Nope.
There's not a hey, I'm sorry.
It's once you get past, like I said, that certain point of you're getting there. And that's when I make the joke, though, if we would have seen the Kyles, it would have been a terrible sight. It would have just been why we didn't see it. It would have just been people literally just dying.
Right.
And then it's like it'd be a tragedy of the people that had to do that we forced them to do that, and also, but then it just gets. Well, I want to see Bigfoot run in the mill. I'm gonna keep saying it. I want to see him literally just. Then I feel bad though, because then I think we're the Empire, and that because the Empire took the Wookiees. They literally went.
Oh, yeah.
That was why they were fighting there. They took the Wookiees. They were using Wookiee as slaves. I mean, the Wookiees, like you said, 9-foot men. Would you rather have a 6-foot man or a 9-foot Wookiee? I'd rather have a Wookiee. This dude can lift way bigger rocks.
I think it said that Chewbacca could like rip someone's arms off.
Wookiees are prone to ripping people's arms off. That's just like a natural thing with them.
That's weird. Maybe
that's why they talk about like you shouldn't like if you're gaming with a Wookiee, you should always let a Wookiee win. Because he gets mad enough, he'll just rip your arms out your socket.
Yeah. Maybe George Lucas knows something about the secret underground Bigfoot mill that we didn't know, and he had to show it in movies that the government was taking away all our Bigfoots.
And just saying, because I am a big Star Wars fan, there was a recent new Wookiee that was showed in the Boba Fett show, and this Wookiee was absolutely huge. It was the biggest Wookiee yet. Like, this Wookiee was big, man.
How big?
He was just whiter. He was whiter and, like, a couple inches taller. So he's probably, like, 10, 11 foot and then, like, wide. And then instead of having brown fur, he had, like, gray and dark fur.
That's something else. So in the show I watched, they said that they found... The guy swore he saw a blonde Bigfoot. Which to me is odd. Because I always imagine Bigfoot as like...
brown.
Chocolate brown.
Yes.
Like, I guess it's, very much like in the Patterson film, where he's that like dark brown kind of stuff. But he claimed that he saw a blonde one, and it was actually a blonde mom and a blonde baby. It was those ones that he claimed were blonde, and that they were like playing on the mountain, which is very strange to me. I would like to see. Oh, that's interesting. I would like to see a Bigfoot baby. I think that'd be cute. I kind of like our clan here. We've got Harry and the Hendersons. We've got Chewbacca. We've got a baby Bigfoot, a blonde Bigfoot. We've got a bear dressed as a Bigfoot. We've got Spacefoot. This is getting pretty extensive here.
It seems like a Godzilla movie in the 90s. Spacefoot.
Spacefoot. Godzilla versus Spacefoot. A big guy in a monster floating foot costume with atomic fungus breath.
I just want a movie now of like Godzilla stomping on a Bigfoot, and then it producing like 2 Bigfoots, and then he stomps on like 2 of them, and then there's like 4, and then like
King
towards
Kong
the end of the movie.
is kind of like the biggest of foots.
We could say, yeah.
But then, what's the real difference between King Kong and a Bigfoot, except about at least like 30 feet?
Yeah, because they don't even. Because King Kong, I guess they had him signing. If you watch the newest Godzilla vs. King Kong, they had him signing, but he never spoke. And they don't really ever talk about Bigfoot speaking, so... I have heard
tell of... They say that Bigfoot can mimic people's voices. Or, noises of other animals.
I could see noises of other animals. Honestly, that's just scary to me. That gets like, I don't know, like creatures that are trying to mess with you of like... Right. Like a scary movie, like we're hanging out in the woods, and then it's, hey, Justin, can you come over here?
Hey, Justin, I promise there's no Bigfoot.
Yeah. I promise I'm not about to rip your arms off. Promise.
I promise I won't. What'd you say?
Oh, yeah, he's one of them dark browns, I can just tell. He's one of the chocolate browns.
One of the blonde foots.
He's the blonde. Oh God, he's a blonde foot. Is there a red one? Like if they're in the redwoods, are they a little more red?
That would make sense to me. So they blend in like with the trees,
with the environment. Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine they'd have all kinds
camouflage,
of like, color of hair.
So then I'm assuming the Yeti is
Yeti's supposed to be like white.
So yeah, so that's what we're getting to. The Yeti is just the northern Bigfoot.
Well, yeah, because he's like frosty. I like the Yeti more than I like Bigfoot.
I thought the Yeti... Well, the Yeti makes sense to me, but then I'm going to use another Star Wars reference. I don't know what the creature's called. I'm sorry, Star Wars fans.
The
I'm
one
not that
like
great.
Luke Skywalker chopped
Yes.
his arms off or something.
Yes. And I always think of when I think of that creature, I also think of in Monsters Inc. And they had him with the yellow
He's
snowballs.
The abominable snowman.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think of him
Welcome
too.
to the Himalayas.
Favorite.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's what it'd be like up there. Just him offering you snow cones. I'm gonna go make some more snow cones.
No, I like the Yeti because I like so to me, like with Bigfoot, it's like tinfoil hats and shit. But so like
Yeti, there's a better chance of seeing because there's less people in that environment.
Well, no, I think what you mean is there's a better chance of the Yeti being real.
Exactly. There's a better chance because there's less people out there to document. Like where we talk about just now of like how every state supposedly has seen Bigfoot, but yet no one can produce concrete evidence. No one has anything.
Because all you have to do to like see Bigfoot is like just go out in the woods.
Yep.
It could just be the woods like behind your house. It doesn't have to be like the rainforest, but like.
And the thing is, even in there, like I talked about, like, you know, my hairy grandpa likes to hunt. And then you take this picture. For all you know, you're taking a picture of someone in their yard or someone walking through these woods that own the, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then that's your Bigfoot.
Right. And like, at least with the Yeti, like, it's mysterious. Like, the top of Mount Everest, like, he's up there. As
It's not
some,
like,
you know, mystical creature that lives in the Himalayas.
And like as you're saying, or even there, or the South Pole, or the North Pole, there's you can't have people there. And even if they do go and explore, there's only a limited time they can.
Right.
And then it's only, you know, there's only so much daylight too.
Right.
In those areas, typically there's not a lot of sunlight. The sun
Right.
was only out for so many hours in the day compared to like around here.
Yeah, I've always liked Yeti more than I like Bigfoot.
Oh, and I always loved the Mount Everest ride at Animal
sure.
Kingdom.
Oh yeah, and that's kind of what I like about it, like the idea that there's like mysticism.
And it's I like that it's like when you get up to the top and you get in this like cavern, and then like the first time I ever rode the ride, I just thought it was a roller coaster.
Right.
And then you get to that, and it almost kind of, to be honest, I was a kid, and it like, whoa, what was that? Then you know, it's this big animatronic Yeti. But at the time, half a second, you're thinking, like I said, and like you said, to think about, like when you get up to the top of the mountain, what's up there?
Right. I think that's, and I don't know if it was real or not, but I've definitely read stories about like groups up there, like just, you know, just disappearing, and then they find their camps like shredded up and stuff. So that to me is cool.
Yeah, but then that's hard, like when you get into like mountain climbing and stuff too. One wrong step, also an argument, wind comes too strong, and you're blown right off.
I don't know. I think it's true that if you die up there, that's where you stay.
That's where you stay.
Like
it depends on where you go at. If you're down below and they can find your body, but it's when you get to a certain altitude, the helicopters can't get to it anymore. So even if they did discover your remains and like they knew this is where you were, they can't get to you. And then they're not going to bury you out and then throw you on their back and take you down. You're going to be gone at that point.
Like I was watching something, and there was a guy that has, you know, frequently climbed Mount Everest, and he talked about there was some mountain climber, he's more of like a famous one, that died on Mount Everest, and his body is up there still. And I remember the guy said, I've seen him a few times. Meaning like the dude's body is almost like a landmark. Like this dude's dead body's there. They can't take him down. Because like once you're up there, you have to actually hook up. I believe you have to hook up to oxygen.
You do. And there's also a point of like no return.
Right.
And that point of no return is like where the helicopters can get to. Mm-hmm. So like once you get past there, that's what I'm trying to say. You're left behind and it's untouched. You know, and thank God the Yeti doesn't eat much.
Right.
Because I don't think there's gonna be much food up there.
Maybe he's a vegetarian.
They always bring trail mix.
Oh,
and it's large bags. So when they pass, they have like, I'm talking like it's like a garbage bag size.
It's a full bag of.
Every pocket has just trail
Gardettos
mix.
On it.
And he's walking up and he unzips, you know. And he don't need much. Takes 2 nuts a day and 1 M&M.
I mean, he's a bulky guy for 2 nuts and an M&M.
I have faith.
You have faith? You have faith in the Yeti. All hail the Yeti. I love it. Please I'm on team Yeti. If I have to pick one,
if I had to pick one, I'm in the same boat. I would go with the Yeti.
Between the Bigfoot, the Sam Squanch, the skunk ape, or Yowie from Australia. I'm going with the Yeti. I mean, I think Yeti to me is cool and scary. I'm going to stick with it. So tell me in the comments of this podcast what you guys think. Whose team are you on? Team Foot or Team Yeti?
And
Or go
please,
with the other ones.
whoa, please refer to him with respect too. It's Mr. Foot.
He actually went. He got his PhD, so it's Dr. Foot.
I don't like Dr. Foot. I like Mr. Foot. You know,
Isn't that
there's some
a
respect.
brand of like soap? I think it's Dr. Squatch. You see that all the time.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
treat your nuts right. Use Dr. Squatch.
yeah.
See, I told you he got his PhD and he opened a brand of soap.
Maybe that's why we never seen him. He was
Not
just
sponsored.
he was making soaps.
There you go. Cold pressed soap.
Got tired of being thought of as a smelly Sasquatch.
He was tired of the Yeti taking all his press.
Who deserved it?
I mean, it is like well deserved. It's harder to climb a mountain than it is to go walk in the woods. And I mean, I guess Bigfoot has to fight bears. So I mean, let's give him props too. I give him props for that. There's no bears.
I think bears swallow him whole, so I'm not even giving him props.
They swallow Bigfoot whole.
Whole.
Can he shrink?
No, it's like one bite.
Is he Antfoot? Like
Just like-
Ant-Man, but oh, gee, that's a big bear. I think you're giving bears too much credit, Jake.
You got to give bears credit.
Bears beat Bigfoot.
I think that's a solid argument right
That's
there.
a solid argument. So, I think we've reached the end of our conversation about Bigfoot, Jim. So Bigfoot fact or fiction? I'm gonna go with he's fiction. Yeti's real, but Bigfoot is fiction.
I'll go with Yeti's real, but Bigfoot definitely fiction.
Excellent. So Jim, why don't you tell us? I don't know what it is yet, but you were supposed to have chosen a topic for next week.
I have chosen a topic, and I feel like I'm going kind of the normal. We've talked about Bigfoot, American pastime, so I kind of want to talk about another American pastime. Next week, I want to talk about serial killers.
Okay.
But I want to keep it. I'm not want to talk about like fake ones. I'm not want to talk on like Dexter or Michael Myers or anyone like that. I want to keep it next week to the real ones. We'll talk about. I love the book and I've read it. If you haven't, maybe a good time to watch the show or do some research. Mine Hunters, where they talk about how they got into the mind of catching the serial killers and stuff. But it's something I've always been interested in. My grandpa's one of those weird guys that watch the documentaries on the serial killers like every day on repeat. My grandma's like sitting there in the corner like, why do we have to watch this dark stuff all the time? But I find it fascinating. Also, I found the guy who wrote the book. I'm having a brain fart on his name, but his prediction on like how the future is and like how we won't see that anymore and how you don't. No, not Nostradamus. I think it's John Walker, but give me 1 second.
Mindhunter. So is that like? I haven't watched that show, but is it like?
I've actually read the book.
Is it a TV show or is it like a documentary? Like
it was a TV show, but it's based off a book.
Like about real shit?
About the FBI profiler that decided instead of we have all these serial killers that are in jail and it keeps happening. Why? Why do they kill? Why do they come back? And started asking them these questions. Started doing interviews until now, like today, you don't see serial killers. But before we ran on this, because we're already kind of wanting to talk about it, we will talk about that next week, and that will be our topic for next week. Awesome. And the name, just so before I go, is John Douglas.
John Douglas. Okay. So I will do some research on serial killers. I kind of already have. I'm pretty versed in a lot of them.
Like I said, we don't have to do too much. It's almost, with being weird saying, it's almost like an American pastime.
Right. I mean, it really is. But
Aliens, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, it's all part of this, what Americans like to talk about. Throw some baseball in there, and that's America, baby.
Look at that. So anyway, thank you guys very much for listening. Tune in next week on Monday, as usual, for serial killer kind of talk. We're going to talk about some people that killed some breakfast items. So anyway, thank you guys very much for listening. I'm Justin.
I'm Jimmy.
This has been the Midnight Shift. Have a good night.